American-Born Chinese, a graphic novel by Jean Luen Yang, color by Lark Pien. American-Born Chinese is a satire that is based on Jean Luen Yang's experience here in America. In the introduction to his novel, he writes, "To Ma for her stories of the Monkey King." This particular story is based upon some of the elements of Jean Luen Yang's own Chinese ancestry. There are three stories that are interwoven into one within American-Born Chinese. This is called intertextuality, and the term is taken from Desire and Language, a novel by Julia Kristeva. And she says that intertextuality is, quote, text speaking to and through each other, end quote. Scott McCloud says that it's part of sequential art, and the reader must fill in and interpret the images in the panels, but the reader must also understand and fill in the blank ribbon of paper that comes between the panels. This novel is written completely, or is completely, a piece of graphic literature. Of the three stories that are woven, the first is the story of the Monkey King. The Monkey King rules Flower Fruit Mountain. He lives in a fable-oriented land and has mastered the arts of kung fu and all the heavenly disciplines. He wants to be treated like the other gods. This is based on a novel, actually, by Sun Wukong from the Chinese novel Journey to the West. The next character is Si Yo Su. He lives in the heavens of the gods. He is the Chinese mythological equivalent to the creator of the universe and all creatures, and ultimately he is the force behind all the characters in the book. He gives each of the characters the chance for freedom and redemption through acceptance of self and self-love. Wang Lai Xiao is an egoless character. He's a humble monk and is the opposite of all the other characters. He gathers fruit and shares it with the homeless, doctors their wounds even when they abuse him. He is unselfish and loving to everyone. He does good and tries to inspire others to do good too. The next thread in our story is the story of Jin Wang. He actually is our protagonist. He is a Chinese American. He is a new student in an average American school, and he is searching for his place in American culture. He is shunned because he is Chinese, and he is different. His best friend is a young man by the name of Wei Chen. Wei Chen Soon is a new immigrant from Taiwan. He is the newest student in an average American school, and he comes seeking a friend. He is shunned because he is Taiwanese and also because he is different. He actually is an emissary of Si Yo Su's, and he is the son of the Monkey King in human form. Danny is actually a popular all-American boy, and he is the third thread that is woven in through here. He is a good basketball player who attends fictitious Oliphant High School. He wants to continue to be accepted, but he has to transfer to a new school each year to escape embarrassment of his cousin Chin Ki. He is actually Jin Wang's alter ego. Finally, we have Chin Ki. He is a stereotypical Chinese male. He speaks with perfect Chinglish dialect or accent, and Chinglish is actually Chinese English dialect. He is Danny's cousin from China. He comes to visit Danny each year, and he embarrasses Danny in school. Within our novel, we have allusions to Chinese culture. In the opening scenes of American-Born Chinese, we have this particular slide, and on this particular frame are various gods and goddesses, demons, and spirits of Chinese culture. In order to teach this novel, you would need to do some research on who the particular characters are references to within Chinese culture. Another allusion within the story is the novel Journey to the West by Wu Chengyin. It was written in the 16th century during the Ming Dynasty. A third reference within this novel is Yeo Ming. He was a basketball player who grew to 7 foot 6 inches tall, and he was recruited to come to the United States to play as center for the Houston Rockets. A final reference here is a beverage that is called either boba or pearl milk tea. This particular beverage was created in a tea house in Taichung, Taiwan. It uses tapioca, and these little gel beads settle to the bottom of the beverage. Within these particular references, we are to pay attention to how this is impacted our Chinese American culture, but also the characters within the novel, especially our novel Jin, especially our character Jin. There are also allusions within this novel to American pop culture. If you were to teach this novel, you might have to go back and review these because today they are no longer relevant to the typical ninth grader, and there are study guides that are geared for about ninth grade to use as you study American-born Chinese. The first reference in here is actually a young man by the name of William Hung, and William Hung had a performance on American Idol that was less than stellar. So there is a reference within here to that particular performance. And you'll notice by the faces of the characters here, they are not impressed either. And Chin Key is actually performing as William Hung did on American Idol. Another reference in here is to what is called the rice rocket. The rice rocket term is actually a derogatory label that goes back to as late as the 1960s and describes what was at the time Japanese or Asian-made motorcycles. Today it's actually used for motorcycles and automobiles in general that have been descended from American or from Asian vehicles. Another reference in here is actually Siyo Su, and this is a reference to God. Notice in this particular scene the beard, the white hair, the staff, and he says, "I do not make mistakes, little monkey. A monkey I intended you to be, a monkey you are." He was the creator of every character within the novel. Another reference here is actually the character Wan Lao Si, and he is a reference to Jesus, and this is the monk. And notice in these particular scenes from the graphic novel, we have God the Father and Jesus, or Wang Lao Se, and then we have Mary, Jesus, and Joseph over here. So it is a reference to that. There's also a reference within here to the story, the sitcom Everybody Loves Raymond. Raymond is no longer on television, but within the story, we have everyone loves Chin Key, and you'll notice the clap, 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 clap here along the bottom of the screen. These particular scenes or images throughout the entire novel actually are parodies making fun of an American sitcom. So there are references throughout here to Chin Key's characterization that it is actually an American sitcom. There's also a reference within here to Transformers. And within the Transformers, we have our characters. And notice here it says, afterwards we would stage epic battles that left our toys smelling like spit. And you have the children here playing with Transformers. And then here actually is an image off the cover. And this is how Jin would like to see himself transforming himself into a different character than being an American Chinese. The lady, there is a woman, a wise woman in here who actually makes a reference to Faust. And Faust was a story in which the character Faust sells his soul to the devil for power and knowledge. It's a German novel, but this woman within the American-born Chinese novel says, "It is easy to become anything you wish, so long as you're willing to forfeit your soul." Another thing that is parodied within here is the view of the American people, this perspective that if you are a non-Caucasian in the US, there's the assumption that you must be an immigrant and a recent immigrant, not the idea that you have been born here in America. And in this particular scene, on the first day that Jin is in school, in his new school, his teacher introduces him to the class and says he and his family recently moved to our neighborhood all the way from China. Jin says, San Francisco. And she says, San Francisco. There is extreme stereotyping within this particular novel, especially within the character of Chin Ki. The first area that he is stereotyped is actually with his hair. He is gregarious, his dialect, and he cannot speak English. He says, Hello, America! And in this particular scene, again, we have ha, 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 clap, 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 which is our parody of the sitcom again. Notice his luggage here, which is actually the Chinese takeout boxes. His hair is the big long braid, which was typical of Chinese stereotyping. His clothing, the kimono, and the typical clothes. He's cheerful, happy, outgoing, speaks poor English. Another way that things are stereotyped is the idea that the Chinese eat foods that the Americans wouldn't. One of the American characters says, My mama says Chinese people eat dogs. And the teacher says, Now be nice, Timmy. I'm sure Jin doesn't do that. In fact, Jin's family probably stopped that sort of thing as soon as they came to the United States. Fast forward, we have our character Chin Ki, and he says, Would cousin Danny like to try Chin Ki's crispy fried cat gizzards with noodles? And again, we have the ha 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 parody down below. There is also stereotyping that takes place with our character who is from Taiwan, who is an immigrant and cannot speak English. Within the novel, you'll notice that there are little carrots on either edge of the speech within some of these speech bubbles, and this actually indicates that the character is speaking Chinese. He approaches Jin and he says, Sorry to bother you, but you're Chinese, aren't you? And ironically, Jin, who feels rejected by his American culture and the American people around him, also rejects our character of, he rejects the character from Taiwan by saying, You're in America, speak English. Stereotyping also, the idea that Chinese are good at math and science and trained in the martial arts. The teacher says the ulna is connected to the, and Chin Li in school says, humulus. The themes of this particular novel are actually themes of finding out who you are, self-discovery. It is a coming-of-age novel for our character Jin, and it's the idea of learning to be yourself. The monkey learns to be himself, and interestingly enough, at the end of the novel, he ends up becoming a good little monkey. So there is a link there. But the monkey learns to accept himself as who he is. And actually, Danny is Jin's imagined character, American character, but Chin Ki calls him Danny with the Chinese accent. And in this particular slide from the novel, you will notice that our character has various transformations as he changes from Jin into Danny. And the end of the novel is the idea of learning to love myself and accept myself as I am. The novel ends up with all three threads being woven together, and it concludes with the characters accepting themselves as who they were created to be. Thank you.